Welcome to the University of Plymouth Skills in Biomedical Sciences. Today we're going to do some simple tissue culture technique where we're going to be splitting cells. Before we start, I am working in what's known as a laminar flow hood, and this is a special hood that allows me to work in a clean and sterile working environment. So I'm going to be splitting a pro monocyte cell line which I've been growing in this flask for several days. Now, as a result, what happens is that the medium that these cells are growing in, it becomes depleted of nutrients, and the density of cells becomes so much that it makes growing of the cells more difficult. So splitting the cells, what I'm doing is I'm reducing the density of cells so that they're happy enough to grow together, and I'm also replacing with fresh medium so that they receive the nutrients that are required. So all I'm going to do now is I am going to split these cells 1 in 5, a 1 in 5 dilution. So I'm going to take 1 ml out of this flask of the cells, and I'm going to put 1 ml into each of the other flasks. So I'm splitting it 1 ml in 5 flasks. So 1 ml in each of these flasks. It is important to note that so that I can go into each flask, I am not touching the end of the pipette into the growing area of the flask. Okay, I'm trying to suspend that in midair and evacuate without touching the growing surfaces to maintain sterility. So I've split those cells, I've divided them up, and now I'm going to put to a total of 5 ml. I'm going to add 4 ml of fresh medium on top, and this medium is called RPMI 1640 with 10% fetal calf serum, which will allow the optimal growing of this particular cell line, and we call this shortened version R10 medium. So I'm going to top up, and I'm going to give 4 ml into each flask. Now, if I don't touch the flask, I can then go into the sterile medium and use it again. It is important to note that if you do touch the inside of the flask on the growing area, you can't guarantee that you're not transferring cells. So to avoid that, if you do touch, you need to change the pipette from flask to flask. So this comes with practice.
Thousand years later.
Before we put these split cells into the incubator, it's important to note that these were originally labeled Passage 26. What I have done now by passaging them is increase the passage number, so make sure that you make a record that you have passaged it to the next passage number, Passage 27, and date it so that you know when you last split the cells. And you can see they're all labeled Passage 27. Now it's time for them to go into the incubator. Before we do, a point of note is if you look at the lid of the flask, you can see these holes. These holes, it's a filter topped tissue culture flask, and by having these holes and having the filter in the top, it means you can close the lid tightly, and the gas that's required for incubation can freely enter the flask without any contaminants coming in. If you do not have the filter tops and have solid tops, you will have to put these flasks in the incubator and loosen the lid so that the gas can get at the culture to buffer the culture at the correct pH. So we're going to put these now into the incubator. So we open up the incubator and we're going to place these, and for optimal growing at the density that I've set them at, we're going to grow them by laying them down gently so that the liquid spreads over the bottom part of the flask. And from the way that I've split them, at the density that I've split them at, laying down at the bottom will allow for optimal growth conditions and densities so that we can then split these cells of optimal number in another 3 to 4 days.